In Avanfall, there are 4 key species that make up the majority of the world, each with unique forms, cultures, societal classes, and also interspecies dynamics. They are largely classed as thus: the humans, the fairies, the siren, and the mecha. Each of these peoples have uniquely stark and varied pasts and histories, and within the context of this world, there is also a strict social hierarchy that those in it are expected to adhere to. So essentially what I'm saying is, you can't escape it. If you exist in this world, you're part of it. So, for the sake of expediency, let's start at the top, shall we? The humans of Avanfall are typical in what one might expect of a human being, with a few key differences. Humans tend to live a little bit longer, with lifespans typically going from 90 to even 120 years on average. They come in all shapes and sizes, and typically their hair and eyes are really unusual, vibrant colours. Unlike the average human that you or I could meet, there are no natural colours. Humans tend to have a more fluid sexuality and often don't prefer one gender over another, although some still have preferences, and birth rates are generally much lower as well. Having siblings or more than one child is often seen as a novel experience and definitely not the average one. Humans can be anything from inventors to doctors to farmers or merchants. Humans are not really discriminated against in any of their walks of life. They typically have their choice of doing or even pursuing the life path that they choose to. At least, if they have the money to do so. Human cities and societies have existed for quite some time and are fairly established in this world. It's kind of hard to find a location on the Heartland Shard that doesn't have humans on it. Humans, in addition to their natural bodies, also tend to rely on a somewhat unique resource available to everyone in this world. Fairy dust is a fairly common commodity, but we'll touch on that a little bit more later. But the most primary example of something that is a human resource are the nostrums. Nostrums are a potent yet temporary type of drug that is available everywhere and prescribed to everyone from the youngest newborns to the oldest elders. And only humans can use them. They are available in stores, you can just buy them over the counter, or in some cases, doctors might even deliberately go out of their way to prescribe them to you. Nostrums are a blended concoction that temporarily alters the body's capabilities in a magical way. A nostrum could give a human being temporary magical powers, but it functions a little bit more like a small-scale virus. The innate antibodies in the human system typically work to scrub it clean from the moment you find yourself infected with it. But nostrums are used for kind of all things in all walks of life, from helping pick up your natural charms to land you a date, all the way to be able to light a fire with a snap of your fingers. Nostrums can do almost anything. And societally, humans sit at the top of the pyramid, and to assure and withhold its power, they do everything that they can to make sure that it stays that way. And humans, for this reason, and many other reasons, kinda suck. Next up are the fairies of Avanfall, who are a little something of an enigma. The fairies are a non-organic, living mineral and magic-rich race. As they are not organic, they do not age nor need any sustenance. The only thing they require is sleep in order to meditate, dream and recuperate. In lieu of any organs, instead, at the centre of their being is a magical source of power, often called a heartbeat due to the way that it pulses and vibrates in the same rhythm as one might expect a heart to. It takes close to 100 years to grow a singular fairy under very, very precise conditions, miles underground in a fairy den. And the process isn't an exact science and fails more often than it doesn't. Fairies are born fully mature but blank slates, and for the first 50 years of a fairy's life, they're not permitted to leave their fairy den, and during those 50 years, they're taught everything they need to know before being permitted to undergo their journey. A fairy's journey can last their entire lives, or it can last only a few days, but the goal is that they're sent out into the world above to experience as much of it as they want in any form that they would like to participate in. And should they choose to end their journey, they may return home to their den with no conditions whatsoever, but shall not be permitted to leave ever again. The body of a fairy is made of a natural crystal that's grown outwards from their heartbeat at the centre of its body. and all the way out to form a full shape. Although fairies don't have any physical organs or needs, their body parts in some way must be symbolic of what they wish to use. That is to say, like eyes to see, perhaps ears to hear, a mouth to talk, and although their bodies can look like anything, they typically assume a human appearance in order to fit in better with human society. In their culture, fairies are completely incapable of lying to one another, as their natural language, the song, sounds more like an ethereal orchestra of mysterious instruments being played in a beautiful symphony, and less like actual words. Because the way that they exchange information is more like a stream of consciousness. And when they're taught the common language and its skills in order to function outside, they learn about things like lying and how humans and other people will use that to their advantage. Each fairy has an elemental typing, which affects some of their innate abilities, magical powers, resistances, and also their physical appearance. These typings are earth, air, fire, and water. Pretty standard fare. Fairies have monochromatic colour schemes, with their bodies all being in the same shades of a similar colour from top to bottom. So earth fairies, for example, tend to range from all manner of soil-like colours, even into autumnal oranges and springly greens. Fire fairies tend to represent the warm colour spectrum, whereas their water counterparts have the cold colour spectrum. And air fairies often have a sort of washed out or pale pastel palette, but are sometimes said to appear in shades of grayscale. Fairies choose a name, usually after a colour that represents them, when starting their journey, and depending on their elemental typing, they are assigned a surname. Blue for water, red for fire, white for air, and green for earth. A key aspect about fairies is that whenever a part of their bodies would be removed or broken away, in lieu of bleeding or any bone or anything like that underneath, anything removed from being directly connected to the heartbeat at the centre of their body turns into what is known as fairy dust. With the same texture and appearance as fine sand, usually in a similar colour to the fairy it once belonged to, fairy dust are signs of damage, and a fairy who takes chips to their body or their hair is cut in the throes of combat find that their dust will fall to the ground all around them. The only real way to hurt a fairy is to damage their heartbeat, protected at the very core of their being, and once damaged, a fairy is no more. Fairy bodies are incredibly durable, and things that would kill most people outright instead just turn their bodies to dust. As long as their heartbeats have taken no significant damage, they can regrow their dusted bodies within a day and be good to go. I'll talk a little bit more about fairy dust in the technology section. We're kinda just getting started there. Fairies have been part of human society for close to 500 years at this point, and although humans regard them with a slightly apologetic or even just wholeheartedly kind demeanour, some humans are sceptical of fairies due to their innate magical power and penchant for mystery, and as thus, the fairies face some discrimination around the uneducated, but tend to get by around the Heartland Shard largely unscathed, putting them second on the hierarchy. Third on our hierarchy are the vicious siren, said to devour their young whole, whose savagery knows no end nor bounds, whose time in the sea and mind racked with psychic phenomena has turned them into unstable and paranoid creatures who can turn on anyone at the drop of a hat. Or at least, that's what the humans would have you believe. Hailing from far beyond the waters, the Big Blue, the siren are as diverse as every individual snowflake due to their innate adaptability and unusual lineage. Siren have the biological advantage in that their body adapts depending on the situations they find themselves in life. Whilst most inherit a trait or two from their parents, their bodies will physically adapt and acquire new traits as they age, and this process is colloquially known as evolution. It's exceedingly rare for two sirens to resemble one another, and whenever that happens, it's often considered an anomaly. Sirens tend to live for around 60 or 70 years, with the very oldest of them making it into their 80s, but they mature much faster than humans do, aging at double the rate until they turn 10 years old, wherein they were around 20 years old in human years, and their pregnancy usually lasts between 4 to 6 months in its gestation period. All siren, at full maturity, possess a simple, low-level telepathic ability that allows them to connect their minds to nearby other siren, or even other similar creatures that have similar psychic ability. And they can even fool nearby creatures into perceiving them differently. Siren culture uses no currency, but instead offers a barter and trade system, and most siren tend to pick up skills as a result of this, typically offering services or items that they've made as parts of exchanges to keep themselves and their communities flourishing and afloat. As a nautical species, most siren tend to have what is called a gill trap whenever they're traversing the shard up top. A device that allows them to breathe on air and something that should be well maintained and kept working. The siren have a unique language that has both spoken parts, but also uses the use of a sign-based language to communicate in addition to that. They also have written language, and their telepathic abilities make it much easier for them to communicate to each other at a range, or at least one person at a time anyway. The Big Blue is incredibly dangerous, and even to this day, the siren who live there tend to face daily or even semi-daily possibilities of threats from the ocean's deadliest denizens. Siren have been coming to the shard for as long as anyone can remember, but we're always kind of used to the poor treatment from their surface-dwelling counterparts. And although many fight to gain rights of an equal caliber, it's always a losing battle, but still one worth fighting for. For all these reasons and more, the humans are cautious, afraid, and actively racist against the siren. Siren facilities in many places can often be segregated and of lower quality than those used by their human counterparts, and many sirens struggle to find footing in any careers on the surface world that isn't strictly just manual labour or something to that effect. Many humans detest them down to their appearances alone, but the veins of hate run much, much further than that. And the siren are very much a second-class citizen in the world of the Heartland Shard. But they fall third on the hierarchy.
Fourth on our hierarchy, if they even place all, are the Mecha, a relatively new species that's existed for about 30 years or so. The Mecha were designed to be a machine race, designed to carry out whichever tasks the would-be buyer would intend, and to this day are still a slave race, and not even acknowledged as a fully sentient species that they are. Most Mecha are designed in a series, usually with a fun, ordinary-sounding name, and anywhere from a handful to hundreds of units in that series are commissioned at a time. Some are one of a kind, built by independent inventors, but the majority of them are manufactured and sold by Kilo Manufacturing. The Mecha are widespread, but are still something of a newer factor in modern life, and some people have a hard time adjusting to their constant presence. Mecha are usually designed to be or achieve something, and their physical bodies are often made with the intent and purpose that reflects this in their appearances. Those that are designed as security or bodyguards are intimidating and bulky. Those designed to act as a courier or a traveller are sleek and speedy. And those who are designed to act as generic staffing often look as generic could be. The goal being that Mecha should be identifiable in job by appearance alone. But that's not the only rule as to their appearances. The Mecha are designed in a somewhat human image. They have a head and a face, arms, legs, and any old kinds of things a person could need, but are never allowed to look human completely. They might mimic the shape of a person, but that's kind of as far as it's permitted to go. Mecha don't really need to eat or drink, and in order to recuperate themselves, all they have to do is sit in an inert state for 6 hours a night to recharge their bodies. As much as their bodies are also made of metal, they're not really that resilient against fire, a weakness that's often used against them. Mecha, in addition to the abilities granted by the blueprints that are used to make them, are super customizable with upgrades that you can acquire over time to give them completely brand new features or special abilities that they could change out in exchange to fit what's required for them to do specific jobs or purposes. Mecha are not permitted to act out with the orders of their owners, in addition to not being allowed to own any kind of personal property or effects, as they themselves are considered personal property and are often assigned different jobs. Some people treat Mecha with a sort of humanitarian aspect. Some of them are treated with care and love, and some of them aren't really treated as anything other than a robot workforce. And that's kind of all. It's difficult for the Mecha to maintain a community or even build a community because they're more or less always being observed by an outsider, which makes it impossible to tell if someone is keeping tabs on you or not. Some have accepted that this is the role they have, and some are happy to live this role, and sometimes they even get the liberties that are kind of given to them and take that as a reward all in its own right. And some will do anything and everything that they can to fight against this oppressive regime, even if it means putting themselves at risk. The Mecha are not a hopeless people and can be just as effervescent and full of life as anyone else around them. All it takes is to look a little bit deeper than the surface. It's for all of these unfortunate and difficult reasons that they fall at the bottom of the societal structure. Now, with that under the way, I hope you're able to understand why there might be some conflicts in this world, now that you know a little bit more about the people, and kind of where these conflicts stem from. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how this actually affects gameplay as each of these races further down the line, and I really hope that by now you kind of at least have an understanding on the surface of how each of these people work and function, and kind of what their worlds look like. And I think it's probably about time that we could talk about the history of Avanfall.